Welcome to Podnutz, Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 151. I am your host, Jeff Halash. This is our live call-in show for computer repair techs. The call-in number is 1-888-697-0162. Let me introduce you to the co-hosts. We have Chris Carruthers from the Remote Support Tech team. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing great. But I need if I'm gonna say something catchy, it's got to be a spur of the moment. I've screwed it up 2 weeks in a row, so I don't know what I'm gonna do about that.
Very cool. Good to see you, man. And also joining us, we have the famous Marvin Bee from maninthevan.net. How you doing, Marvin?
I am fantastic.
Yes, you are. Also joining us, we haven't seen him in a while, but it's great to have him back. We have Tom Lawrence from Lawrence Technology Services. How you doing, Tom?
Oh, doing great, man. Doing great.
Very good. This is your second podcast of the day, so you're just getting them out there.
we're a glutton for punishment because my first one's at 7 a.m. That's when we do the Sunday morning Linux review. So.
Oh. Whew. Yeah.
That's when we start the show. We're actually there beforehand. So.
On location. That's very cool.
Yep.
And also joining us from across the great pond, we have Alister Christman from the AdminAdmin podcast. How you doing, Al?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Good. You so how's the AdminAdmin podcast going? Pretty good.
Yeah, it's going good. We're getting more and more listeners, and it seems to be going. We've got another co-host now, who's Jeffery. He's a Linux system admin, so it's quite good to get the whole Windows side from me and the Linux side from Jeffery. So it's going quite well, thank you.
Good. Very good. Got that whole roundabout thing going there. You know, you can't have Windows without Linux. You can't have Linux without Windows. Tom, be quiet. Okay. Anyways, okay. So let's. Hey, Chris, why don't you start off this week? What's been going on in your business?
I mean, I recovered from an illness, so basically, we're starting to pick up speed again. For the most part, I was saying this before the show, but I want to mention it now. It's funny because we were talking last week about CryptoWall and about how it's still a thing. We just had someone call in from one of our clients. We did a CryptoWall removal for them 2 weeks ago, and they managed to get themselves reinfected 14 days after we had removed it. Brand new infection, had all the pop-ups and everything to go along with it. And they hadn't finished backing up their data yet.
Oh.
So they recreated everything over the course of those 2 weeks and then lost it all again. So the biggest thing that we're going to be focusing on is going to be retraining on the sale of backups so that we can make it sound better to the client when we pitch it to them, without getting into scare tactics, because that's not what you want to do. We're hitting the beginning of November rut, where the next 30 days is going to be very slow, and then it's going to pick up a little bit more in December. So it's going to be a lot of internal growth, more training, and just pushing the company to be better.
Now let me ask you a question. Now I guess, knowing that they had gotten hit by the CryptoWall virus, would this have been a great situation to make a mirror, local backup that you pulled off the machine and then started the cloud backup?
No.
Okay.
No, not in my opinion. And it's the reason why they got hit was because they recreated all of their stuff first and then set up a backup, and refused to allow their backup to be set up in the first place. So I don't think that making a local backup would have made any sense, because the local backup would have been re-encrypted. Because I'm sorry, but no matter how many times you tell a user unplug that external hard drive, they don't. I'm not going to trust them to do that. So what should have happened is the backup should have been set up immediately, so that the automatic backup would have gotten everything as it was created, and then they wouldn't have to recreate it again.
Yeah, it's tough, because it's one of those things where I will go, and if I was going to do something like this and set up a offline backup, and a business or whatever had this type of problem, it would be nice to have somebody that goes on site and basically plugs in a drive for them, makes a mirror image, unplugs the thing, takes it with them or whatever, and until they get that cloud backup up, and then hopefully they'd be good to go from there. But you're right. The end user is not going to do all that stuff. So
Right. You got to remember too, we're remote.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what,
so
yeah.
I don't have the option to back it up and then take it with me to make sure that they don't screw it up. But I mean, it's the only way that you can look at something like this is to say, look, like we warned them, we told them how you can get that type of infection, and I asked him like, well, how many email attachments did you open up over the last week, and he couldn't even give me a number. So I'm like, okay, well, is every single one of those emails from somebody that you know? Well, no, because they're coming in from clients, and I don't know all of the clients. Well, clearly you need to take a look at your security, and you need to do some user management here, because I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, I bet you one of your clients has this infection too.
Oh yeah.
And got it from one of them, or you got an unsolicited email again because they hit you the first time. So and then you have to explain to the user how you know it's a new infection, because they're trying to get warranty work out of this, and they're trying
Sure.
to and they want like, it's always that fear, right? You get that call and it's like, oh, it's still infected and it's re-encrypted all of my stuff, and now I'm going to have to put in another X number of hours to recreate all of this stuff again. How are you going to compensate me for that? That's always the fear in the back of my head. Like, we've got insurance, so it means our insurance premiums would go up if they actually managed to pull that off. But luckily we're pretty good at explaining things to people at this point. So we were able to explain to them, like, no, this is how I know it's new. You're getting these pop-ups. This happened. I'm really sorry that it happened. But we warned you.
Right.
And that it's the but we warned you part that you can tread very, very carefully into, so that you can explain to them, this is how you're going to prevent it from happening again.
Right. Yeah.
We take a lot of time to explain to the clients too, to help the CYA part of this. We do this with our retail and our business clients. Is we often frequently show them the file download dates, what websites they visited, and we've shown them where you downloaded this same thing again. It's funny when they take it and you fix it and they go back and open up that same email that was the same phishing scam, and they go, but it says I get free music if I click here.
Oh.
But showing them that they downloaded it again is often great, because that's one of those indisputable facts, and they're like, yeah, I guess that is there.
Right. Oh, wow. Well, that's very interesting, Chris. That's unfortunate that happened to the customer, and hopefully, I guess the lesson will be, hopefully they will learn from this and have you back up their stuff from now on.
Yeah, and I mean, we can't really take ownership of the problem at that point. Really, we couldn't have prevented it. It just wouldn't have happened with this client. But at the same time, as the owner, I get this feeling right in my chest, like, if only we had pushed the backup sale a little bit harder.
Right.
If only we had done this a little bit better, then maybe this wouldn't be a problem. And it's I beat myself up about situations like that, because I would hate it. I was trained on empathy when I was working in the call centers for a long time, so I get myself in this mindset where, like, man, I completely get how frustrated you are, and I'm so sorry that I didn't prevent that. But you can't say that, and you can't truly believe it, because, like, if I had reinfected their systems, absolutely that would be my fault, but I didn't do anything to cause it. So take a step back, take a deep breath, and make the sale next time.
Again, you're only providing the services. If somebody doesn't want the services, then they're not going to get the services. You can lead a horse to water. You can't make them drink. Old adage, still true, no matter what we do nowadays.
That's right.
So, all right, very cool. All right, Mr. Man in the Van, what do you got going on in your business besides driving around town in your van?
Looking for other vans.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was a different business. Never mind.
Yeah, I'm just looking for other vans, and we're gonna do a caravan across country. And
oh, nice. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah. Well, I mean, since recovering from the jetpack, that was my first thing to do last week. All those jabs I took. Did a couple of. I did a nice Office 365 migration. Finished up yesterday. Started Friday night. Went very well. And the client that I told you guys about last week that invited me to their HIPAA meeting and then asked me to tell them everything I was going to do for them regarding HIPAA, even though I didn't know I was going to do it. They agreed to change their email provider, and we're going to move them to Office 365 with a HIPAA-compliant secure mail on top of that. So I'm going to get nice 26 accounts with secure mail, and that'll be one of the next upcoming weekend projects for me. So that's going to be fun.
Nice. Now, can you explain how secure mail works?
Well, what we're going to do for them, and what a lot of the secure mail packages are just a layer on top of your email client, whether it's Office 365 or Exchange, where your mail is actually sent through a secure encrypted portal, and the recipient of that actually will have to create an account, log into the portal in order to see the mail and reply to it. So it's not something where you're going to send it from your computer to their computer, because that cannot be encrypted. So the encryption, goes to the secure portal, and they can't simply open it in something like their Outlook unless they have the same secure mail package that you do. The package that we're going to do for them is something that will work as a plug-in to their Outlook. It will work on their tablets and smartphones, and it will be something where they can send regular mail through their Outlook with no problem, but when it comes time to send a secure mail, they actually either hit a separate button that starts a secure mail, or in this case, they're going to have masking set up so that if for some reason a social security number or a patient ID number that matches a particular pattern or a credit card number ends up in the email, the secure plugin is going to recognize that, and when you try to hit send, it's going to say, oh, well, you're sending out, patient information or, secure information. You need to send this securely, and so you can't just send it out as a normal email. It's got to go through the secure mail platform. So in this particular case, we're using a package through AppRiver that allows them to use their same domain, so they don't have to change anything. A lot of the other packages that we've been looking at actually makes you, for instance, if your domain is maninthevan.net and I wanted to set up secure mail, I would actually have a secondary domain called secure.maninthevan.net, so it'd be 2 email packages to use. We didn't want to do that for them, so we're spending the extra money to keep it within the same domain.
Gotcha. Okay. No, that makes perfect sense. The reason I wanted you to explain that too is because a lot of people will think that there's all kinds of mail clients that come out and say they're encrypted, they're secure, and the problem is they are on your end. If you use some of these mail clients, you send them out, but when it hits the other person's inbox, they are not encrypted at that point. They're in the clear, and you have to have something that's catching it in the middle so that you can grab it from wherever, and you've got encryption on both sides, so that you're not ever having that email in the clear at any point from point A to point B. Yeah,
there's a whole show you can do on encryption, because there are companies that say you don't need to add these plugins, you don't need to do a secure portal, and setting up encryption in your own Outlook, yeah, that works for you, but it doesn't work for the recipient if they don't have Outlook or the same settings and stuff like that. So doing a secure portal through one of the major providers, it takes the work away from you having to try to reconfigure everything. It's already done, it's easy, it's simple, and the hardest thing that people have to do is set up an email, user account and password to get into the portal.
Okay, that's great, awesome. All right, and let's see, Tom, what's been going on in your business since the last time we've seen you? I'm sure a ton of things. I see you're busy all the time, doing something.
Doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. No, been really busy. Obviously, one of the things is I've been is co-hosting the SMLR. Been to a few conferences, the Ohio Linux Fest, and I don't know if you're familiar with. So it's been a while since I talked to you. So I went to Penguin Con. I did a few talks on things like PF Sense and some other Linux security. If you're not familiar with any of that, I've been building up my YouTube channel, publishing all that. More recently, though, besides the remodel of my office, and which turned into, well, why don't we remodel whole stores? My employees thought were a good idea, so there's still chaos on the other side of this wall. It's like put my blinders on, like I'm sure they're finishing it soon, right?
Sure.
We're doing a lot of the same. I actually have hired since a full-time guy. We've gotten a lot into infrastructure building for clients. With so many people moving over to VoIP systems, we have a series of car dealerships. We've been going from dealership to dealership and putting in like 100 to 200 drops for each dealership, new network drops for VoIP systems and everything else they're putting in, and Wi-Fi. And a lot of it's with Chrysler. Kind of the joke now, they plug them into the network prior to even opening the hood when they get these cars in. And so that's been interesting. We have pulled so much cable. It's been amazing. Just one location got 74,000 feet of cable. It's just...
Oh my gosh, that is a lot. Wow.
Yeah, each dealership, that one was one of the bigger ones. Some of the other ones, though, it's like 50,000 feet of cable. It's easy to remember. It's like I bought 50 boxes of 1,000-foot cable, and then we went through them all.
Wow.
So it's mind-blowing, but it's amazing how much tech that these dealerships are bringing in there. And, of course, they wanted it all done, and then we had the Jeep incident. And they only had, and we're Southfield Chrysler, which is one of the larger dealerships in our area here, they only had a few people bring in the Jeep for the security update, which I thought was funny. I'm like,
oh no, it's like a regular end user, right? I mean, they're not going to pick it up until it's broke.
They can hack me and shut me down on the freeway, no big deal. Other exciting news is we are getting closer to open sourcing our point of sale system. That's been on my to-do list for a really long time. The reason I don't dump the code out there now is because it's a complete disaster, and the code needs some serious rewriting. It's completely working, but it's been patched and hacked so much, so we're going to be doing like a rewrite probably in either Python or Java, and that's going to be eventually, once we're done, open source. I have a meeting with a group of people over at Wayne State that want to take it on as a school project. So, and it's...
Oh, okay.
It's like I said, it runs our retail store. I use it for all the invoicing for my business. It's a really simple system. It lacks some modules like inventory control because it's not as relevant for me. I don't carry a lot of inventory. But it's good, it would compete, for example, with like PC Repair Tracker, which is a good program that's out there. I just wanted something to kind of follow my ethos of running everything on open source.
Sure. No, that's great.
Yeah, we've given it all away, and I'm producing all the documentation now for a whole workflow of everything that we do, because that's the first step is watching how we use it, and so I'm producing it all. I'm going to put it all on my YouTube channel. That way the programmers can go, okay, that's how it's in use now, because they're going to copy all the functionality, but it's a greenfield project. They're going to do a ground-up rewrite of it.
Okay, very cool. Now let me ask you a question, because I follow you on Facebook, and one of the things that I noticed was you were throwing some stuff. You were recycling the other day.
Yes.
And being as we're in the same area, like 10 miles away from each other, where do you actually recycle things? Because I've got a basement full of stuff, electronic stuff. It's like some is as old as 10 years, some even longer, that I really need to get rid of, and I want to do it properly instead of just throwing it in the garbage. So where's the best place to find in this area something that I can recycle?
So I work with my friend. I helped him start this company 4 years ago called Covert Shredding, and it's a play on his last name. His last name is Covert, C-O-V-E-R-T.
Okay.
And so we're like, what are we going to call the company? I'm like, Covert Shredding, dude. I mean, it's a cool name. And he's actually doing really, really well. He's got a warehouse and trucks and everything else. And so we break it all down, and and if you've seen the videos that we bought a physical hard drive crusher, so we crush out all the hard drives ourselves, and we do that as a free service for anyone who brings anything to us, and then we'll go on site and crush hard drives for businesses as a service. Some of them want everything done right there, like we were saying with HIPAA and medical. They don't want any worries that anything's going away.
Sure.
So we'll actually show up on site, give them a quote to crush everything before we leave, before we even take it all away. But once we broke it all down, I hand it over to Covert Shredding. But where he takes it is there's a couple large recyclers like Great Lakes, and we're selling it to them as bulk. So it's just bulk aluminum, because once you pull all the hard drives, they're a big box of aluminum. So there's places you can get it. It's pennies on the dollar. It's not really, in terms of money, it's not a lot. But once you start filling up 53-foot trailers filled with this, because of the volume we do, I mean, one pickup from a school was 13,000 pounds when it was all done.
Wow.
So that's what his crew does. But we work hand in hand together to do it because we're producing e-waste. Every time I pull a hard drive out of a customer's computer, and we average about 5 to 10 computers a day that are coming through here, and then hard drive replacements, we probably replace 15, 20 a week. That volume means there's a stack of hard drives all the time here. So we crush them and box them, and he takes them away.
Very nice. And obviously he's local in the area, right?
Yeah, he's local in the area, right over in
Okay.
Romulus. If you want to take anything, of course, you're close. You can drop anything you want off my store if you're worried about getting it crushed. One of the closest recyclers that takes it that you can just take it in there, is, close to us physically, is Nelson Recycling in Romulus.
Okay. All right, great.
So
I will
it's
definitely-
a big part of our business. And we let customers crush their own hard drives because they think it's neat. So it's kind of a draw for the retail side because people want to see it happen. So when they see it getting crushed, they feel that confidence that they're like, well, what are you going to resell it? So unfortunately, there's a few other computer places, and one of them got caught. Someone dropped off their stuff for recycling, and in their Google reviews, they said, I went there, and the guy was selling the stuff I dropped off for recycling with my stuff on it. He didn't even erase it. He just, she's like, he said he was a recycler. Clearly, he's lying.
Right.
It's unfortunate. So we tell them, we don't. We are not reusing it. It's not going on a shelf. We crush it, destroy it, tear it down. That's the honest way to do it.
Yeah, and it's funny, and I don't care. I'm not even looking for any money for this. I just want to, get rid of it, and so it's not going in the garbage dump.
There's not a lot of money into it.
No, the funny thing is though, somebody had said that you could take a hard drive and drop it on the cement, and then after you should be able to shake it, and on some of the drives that actually had glass as their disks, they'll break. Well, not all of them are like that. So
right.
It's like, so I'm kind of testing them out because I want to hear them shatter, right? So I'm dropping them on the ground, nothing. I'm like, I must not have any of those drives that have, glass plates in them. So I think I'm gonna, definitely. I'll get a hold of you because I want to look at your crusher because that sounds kind of neat.
I just posted a link in the IRC channel because I'm using the Pure Lev crusher. So
okay, awesome. I'll definitely check that out. Very cool. All right, and Al, what have you got going on? And obviously, you do a lot of this stuff day to day with your regular job, but you also have a podcast that talks about a lot of kind of the stuff that we talk about. So what's going on in your world?
Yeah, well, I've been having quite a fun week this week. I broke someone else's network this week, which is quite fun. One of our customers is they have a virtual desktop, which we provide them, and they basically just have a number of offices around the UK, and they basically opened a new office, and they're basically these managed services office. So it's basically these people just provide them with a room, and then all you have to do is pay for the room, and basically only get your electric and water and everything through with it. And what happens is they all have shared comms room, and they basically provide you with an internet connection. And the guy was saying, well, here's the room. I said, where can I plug my switch in and my router in? And he goes, well, yeah, here it is. And he goes, where are the patch ports? So he showed me where the patch ports were. He goes, half the room's on this patch and half of the room is on this patch. So I thought, that's okay then. So if there's anything plugged in it, just unplug it and I'll worry about it later. So I start plugging it all in, and then so it's really, these rooms aren't secure. This guy just let me. I'll send you a link to the so you can have a look in the show notes. But it's a complete mess, and anyone can walk into the room and do anything you want, unplug cables and everything. So there I was, unplugging cables. Because the guy said, this is the patch panel, this is the numbers. I did, and the guy walked in and go, if you just unplug my phone, my internet's gone down. And they go, well, I'm just doing what I'm being told. So he goes, I'll go and see the office manager. And the office manager goes, what have you done? I was unplugging what you told me to unplug. And he had told me that he'd shown me the wrong patch panel. So I'd unplugged this wrong guy's phone. So I knew what I'd done as soon as I was basically I plugged it back in. What was funny is that the patch panel for what he told me to plug in, what I needed to plug to, was into another actual room. Wasn't actually anywhere near the room I was actually in. So luckily the people before me had left some cables which had gone into the ceiling and then back over the ceiling and then into this the comms room I was in. So so I was breaking other people's network, which is
wow, that sounds like a mess. So that's what you were dealing with. straightening that whole mess out. That doesn't sound like any fun at all.
No.
Especially when the people come to you and go, "Hey, I can't get online."
Yeah.
Wow.
Marvin, what you were saying about you were doing an Office 365 migration. What were you using? Tools were you using to migrate the email between the two into Office 365?
Well, with this particular customer, they had an on-premise Exchange server, so I used the tool from BitTitan, the migrationwiz.com, and I like that a lot better. If you guys have heard me on Lisa's show, I was using a tool from Code2, but this one from BitTitan is much faster.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Kind of excuse my ignorance on this, but Microsoft doesn't have a good migration tool themselves?
Well, they have a tool.
Because we do a lot of Google Apps migrations. We move, pretty much all my clients are using that, and the tools that Google has are amazing. I have no problem uploading their calendar, contacts, emails, synchronizing large companies right up, and I've never needed any other tool besides one Google came with. And I had someone else mention this, that Microsoft's tool was kind of and it kind of just struck me as odd. You're going from Microsoft product to a different Microsoft hosted product. I'm always surprised it just didn't do that, because the Google one, if you've ever used it, is slick and it runs smooth. It's really not a problem. Migrations are not even an issue. Line up the users, produce the emails in the cloud. Even if you don't produce them, you can take 1,000 users on an Exchange server, and it'll produce all the users and map them all and upload everything. It's no problem.
Yeah, well, what I found with all Microsoft tools, and that's not just the 365, if you go back to the File and Settings Transfer Wizard, yes, it worked, but it just wasn't smooth, and it wasn't, it didn't give you all the stuff that you wanted. So if you use something like a Fabs to, do your backup and transfer, you get so many more options. And, I find the same, their migration tool works, but it's slow, it's clunky. The Code2 tool that I used was nice. It did the job. You can, see your statistics as you're going. You've got multiple times that you can go back. The BitTitan tool, I mean, to be honest with you, I probably like that more than any of the others. I can't say that I've given it a full run through, because I just did it for the first time this weekend. It was 16 accounts, but it was nice. I mean, I could do multiple passes. It literally, we're talking about a 34 gig Exchange server mailbox that it finished in, I think it was 8 hours to do all 16 mailboxes. And so by Saturday morning, all I was doing is creating profiles, importing the mail, and that mail came down quick. I was done by, I think it was 2 in the afternoon.
That's nice.
Just me. So it is a little bit more pricey than some of the other options, but I think for the cost, it was worth it.
Right.
And with the migration, you don't have to install any software on the server. You just literally just point it to your.
Correct. Yeah, it's a web portal. You just have to make, well, at least for the Exchange portion, you just make sure you can get to OWA website, and it does everything for you.
Nice. Hey, Tom, do you have some open speakers? I'm just wondering, because somebody's got a little bit of feedback coming through.
Yep. Actually, let me turn it down.
Okay.
I should fix that.
All right.
I just realized I thought you guys heard my phone go off, because I'm like, yeah,
No.
We heard
I
everything.
just turned that off now.
We heard your Star Wars figure move in the back.
I just heard Marvin in stereo. That's all. So very cool. All right. So one of the things that I have been working on this week is I had a problem, and I've been working on it for 8 months, and it's taken me 8 months to solve it. Back in the day, I used to use a lot of CDs and DVDs for reinstalling operating systems. I rarely reinstall operating systems anymore unless there's a broken hard drive or something like that. So, with that being said, I have had a disk with the Windows 7, and it's basically an all-in-one where it had all the different versions of Windows 7. But I had 2 disks, one for 64-bit, one for 32-bit. The problem I'm running into is not on my home-built machines. I had built a tool that actually works into my USB key, and it was just by changing the ei.cfg file, the config file for telling that version what it is, whether it's a home edition, volume licensing, all that kind of stuff. So anyways, what ended up happening is in a lot of OEM, HP, Dell laptops and stuff like that, I keep getting this where they want a floppy drive, they want a floppy driver when I'm trying to use a CD. So I've been trying to make a USB stick with all the versions of Windows 7 on it. With all that being said, I finally found a program that did it for me. It took a very short amount of time. I have the enterprise versions of Windows 7, 64, and 32-bit, and it was able to basically take those two files, those two ISOs, and bring it into one ISO. And then I was able to take Rufus, which is another tool that I use, because for whatever reason, that tool wouldn't actually bring the ISO to the USB stick, even though it's supposed to. But Rufus, I found, works 100% of the time. So I use Rufus, put it to the USB stick. Now I have a flash drive with all versions, 32 and 64-bit, of Windows 7 on there. Now what's cool about this, the other thing that's cool, is you can use recovery program from either the 32-bit or the 64-bit using that single flash drive. So now there's no swapping a disk on a 32-bit system or 64-bit system to try to get in there and do any type of recovery. And I put it on two machines, and it worked flawlessly both times. Added in my serial numbers, boom, done. And authenticated, and actually moved both those systems to Windows 10 anyway. So it didn't really matter. But my point is, every once in a while, I need that stupid flash drive with the Windows 7 all-in-one on it. And so now I finally have a tool. I will put it's called WinAIO Maker, and I think it's Professional 1.3 or something like that. I will put a link in the show notes. You guys can go check that out. It saves me a lot of times, the very few times that I have to use it, so if that makes sense. But that was one of my projects that I was able to get done this week, so I was happy with that. And that's because I have a couple systems that I needed to reinstall the operating system on because they were wiped out, and I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but hey, that's what I've been doing.
That's convenient having it all on one. And thumb drives are so huge now. I mean, they cost nothing to get a 64 gig thumb drive.
Oh, exactly. Now, I do have a lockable 64 gig drive, and I've tried some of the different software where I do a all-in-one USB installer, and you can put the different ISOs on there. I have not been able to get those to work 100% of the time. So a lot of times it's a waste of time for me. I'm sticking this thing in, it's not working. So what I did was I bought a batch of 8 gig drives that I can basically put Windows 8, Windows 7, Windows 10. 8 gigs is enough to put your 32-bit, 64-bit operating systems all in one, because really the bits are all the same. So if you have the enterprise version, or it doesn't really matter, or even the home version, it's got all the bits in there for the different versions. You just have to have you have to be able to break it out and tell it basically what it is, whether it's home edition or this edition or that edition. So I'm trying to do the same thing with my Windows 8.1. I have not been able to get that to work as of yet, and I think that has to do with the ISOs I'm trying to use. So I'll follow up in a couple weeks, and hopefully I'll have that figured out. If not, it's not really a big deal, because pretty much anything Windows 8 and above, I'm putting 64-bit on there anyway. So I have two flash drives, one with 64-bit Pro, one with 64-bit Core, and that works for me. So I've basically got a keychain with a bunch of different flash drives on them, just hanging off there. I can grab them and do what I need to do. All right, so that is what I have been working on over the last week since we've talked. Let's go ahead and answer some emails, or read some emails anyways. And then Marvin, I think in a minute you said you have an email that you want to bring to the show talking about Jetpack when we get done, right?
I can do that.
Okay. All right.
Sure.
Okay, this is from Troy. It says, I am just starting a new repair business. I am in the mode of getting the word out right now. The service I will be offering will be virus cleanup, laptop, PC, tune-up, and memory installations and upgrades. Great place to start. Since these services are done all locally and not through remote support, I was thinking of having just a Facebook page and not a website, especially since all my customers all use mainly Facebook. Your thoughts, please. Who wants to tackle that?
I can't answer. I don't use my web page for that.
Go ahead, Chris. I know you got something to say.
You know that it's probably exactly the opposite of what you think that I'm going to say. Try
Maybe
it.
not.
Try it. Absolutely try it. If you think that is the best way, you know your customers more than anybody else knows your customers, as long as you're paying attention. So try it. If you think that that's the best way to reach your customers, and since a business Facebook page doesn't cost any money, it wouldn't be the worst place to start. But track it. Make sure that you're tracking it. Ask those customers, how did you find me? Ask those customers if they got through the Facebook. Get people to check in. Because the more numbers you have, the more that you know that that's what's driving people to your business, the more you know whether or not it's a success. The problem is that Facebook has really made their system a pay-to-play type of scenario. So a lot of the times, unless you're directing people to your Facebook page, they're not going to find it easily. And that's the only rub that I can see happening there. So eventually you're going to wind up paying for those Facebook credits so that you can boost your post and get it in front of people. And if you don't, then you start losing those marketing dollars. And then at that point, you may as well have a website and use Google to do the, that clicky thing where they take your money. That I can't think of the name
AdWords?
right now. Yeah, AdWords. That's the one. So yeah, if you want to try it, try it. It would be a really interesting thing to see how it would turn out, and I would really encourage you to tell the show how it went if that's the route that you go.
Absolutely.
I'll agree with that on the Facebook. That's really where we convert for our retail customers. We buy a lot of ads on Facebook, and it works really well. That's my retail side is really focusing on the Facebook. I don't doing it without a website. That might work. I mean, we even today, even though it's Sunday, we're still answering messages we get from Facebook off of our page. That's just common for us.
That's good. That's real good. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that they have. And Chris, just so you know, I kind of gave him the same advice. So no, I didn't know what you were going to say, but no, it's good. We actually agree.
That doesn't happen very often, though. Don't our ratings drop when we agree on something?
Yes. So Tom, now a lot of people say they have real good traction from Facebook. The problem is a lot of us out here, we really don't know how to use it effectively. Now, are you able to kind of dial it down to really hit the audience that you want to hit in the area you're in?
Yes. Actually, one of the things that I just posted, and if you go to the website, my wife is now taking care of this and publishing all the insider information, so to speak, is what we do. We started a blog called Social Trek, and what that is, we're giving you all the details of how we run our ads. I even put a YouTube video of how specific I get on my ads and how I run them in the area. And I spend about $500 or $600 a month on Facebook ads. But the return is absolutely there. I mean, there's no doubt, because we track where all the clients come from, where the returning clients come from. There's no doubt that I'm getting my money's worth out of them. Some of my videos have several thousand views because we do some video ads on Facebook, and they're amazingly effective. I mean, when we have something for sale, we need to sell some laptops, I throw an ad out there, and we will just move them very quickly.
Okay.
Here's a question on that end. How many Facebook likes do you have on your company page?
21 or 2,200.
Okay, so I mean, there is a difference between an established Facebook business page and one that's not. I mean, I can tell you that admittedly, I don't put a whole lot into this, but I mean, our Facebook page has 50 likes, I think. So when we put out a post, it goes out to 50 people, and that's fantastic. It's that boost post that you really need, and you want it paying for those likes. And that's the only thing that I don't really like about the way that they're presenting it. But, that's my opinion.
Well, likes used to be really relevant, and they're still relevant for retargeting. So I'll use the likes if I have something I want to offer people who already like my page. But if you just want to get the ad out there, you start with their ad system, and you can target anyone. They don't have to even know your page exists. You don't even have to make the goal of the ad them to like your page. It's just so your ads show up on the right and show up in the news feed. They don't have to be a like of your page at all when you're setting up the ads. That's what sometimes people get a little confused about. That's why I did a video on how the ad system works, which is different than boosting posts. You're right. Boosting posts only boosts the post for the people in your audience that already like your page. But if they already like my page, it's probably because they already know about me. So most all my targeting that I do for ads is not about people who know about me. The people who know about me are using my service. That's why they like my page. I'm doing targeting like, show me people in this bracket, this age range, this many miles, and go. You know, I have an ad for virus removal. I have an ad for laptops for sale, whatever it is, back to school special. We put that together, and we then target through the ad system, which means it doesn't matter if they like my page or not. And you can also get more specific. They have some targeting options that let you target by interest, or I think you can still target by them liking your competitor's page.
Nice.
That sounds a little underhanded, doesn't it?
You know, it's funny. Now, a lot of people are probably going, especially people who are just starting off in this business, they're probably going $500-600. Oh, that's a lot of money. But my understanding is you can start with a low amount of money just to get your ad out there, and it is effective from the people that do use it and know how to set it up.
Yes.
Okay. Very cool.
You can set the ad spend. You can say I want to spend $1 a day, and they'll let you spend. They'll tell you, they'll estimate how many hits you're going to get and how many clicks you're going to get and visibility of that ad based on that. And I like it because you're not committed to a campaign. You can start a campaign with an end date or no end date with daily budgets, and you can just stop it at any time.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
you
like
get too many computers in, you can just say I got enough.
Right.
Yeah, like I just clicked through on a couple of things here because multi-tab. And like I'm looking at it here so that you can set up an awareness campaign where the only thing you're doing is going out and trying to set awareness for your company. And it's saying, okay, well, how much do you want to spend? What kind of age range do you want? Are you looking for men, women, or both? What's your daily budget? Do you want to have a start and an end date, or do you want to just keep going until you tell us not to? What radius do you want to push that out to? So it looks like a great system. It just the only problem that I have again is that they started off in this sense where, okay, if you create this Facebook page and get enough likes, then people are going to see your stuff, and the more people that see your stuff, the better, and yay, Facebook. And then they did exactly what every company does, and what we expect every company to do is they pulled out the free rug, and now it's pay to play. And that's where new companies coming in don't really understand that because they still remember the whole like my page campaign that everybody used to put out all the time.
Yeah, and I liken it to this though. It's no different than Google AdWords now. So, any type of advertising you do, whether it be make a paper flyer or whatever, you're going to spend money to advertise, and that's where people have to get to the point of you're really not going to advertise for free. There just really is not a great way that you're going to get that information out there. Yes, you can be organic in the search and come up on top in your area, and that's all fine and dandy. But the reality is, you still have to push it out a little bit farther than that. And the only way to effectively do that, in my opinion, is to actually spend a little bit of money. And you don't have to spend a whole lot of money, but you're going to spend a little bit so that you can make a lot more. And that's really the way. That's the way business is, right?
Yeah, it is. But I think, I look at what I used to spend. I go back 8 or 9 years ago. Full page ad and flyers were cost me $1,000, and now I'm spending. Here I am all these years later, all these clients, and I'm spending only $500 just on my Facebook advertising. Going, look at the clientele return I have on a $500 spend, and it's better return than I'd ever had on the full page flyer ads that cost me $1,000 a month. So
right. Yeah, those great points. All right, let's move on to another email. This says, great show. Or I'm sorry, Jeff, great show on 149. I am starting out part-time, working towards my A+, S+, and M+. And right now, I am just helping any person I can get to get real-world experience. I'm using your website and Matt Rodella as a resource material. Again, keep up the good work, sir. This is from Paul Hornbogen from Paul's Computer Service here in Cadillac, Michigan. Thank you, Paul, for the email and the kind words. Appreciate it, and I'm glad you're getting something out of it. And let us know how those certifications and everything go for you, and what types of things you've been working on. All right. Email number 3. Here's a great question. Some of you may or may not remember this, depending on how long you've been in the business. It says, I still see reflows and motherboard repairs advertised on eBay. Anyone had any good results reflowing in the last couple of years? Jerry Lee Lewis. Hey, Jerry, appreciate your email, and Who's got something on that? Anybody? Anybody see any reflows or, motherboard level repairs?
Now replace it.
It's so cheap to replace it. Unless they're in love with the device, I don't see a point in it. Unless there's some sentimental value and attachment you have to your old HP DV series that needed a reflow, I don't see the point in doing it.
Yeah.
I will say that I have had a client who really wanted his laptop fixed, even though it was 7.5 years old, and I was able to source the motherboard from Hong Kong and had it shipped in and replaced it. So I will do that. I will not reflow. I will not do board level repairs except DC jacks. Only thing that I will do board level is DC jack repair.
Now wait a minute. Are you talking about the plug-in kind or the one where you desolder and solder it back on?
Both.
Okay. Just checking.
It's okay. I have a Brad for that. He's actually really good at the soldering iron.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew
Yeah.
that. I knew you weren't doing them yourself.
No, God, no.
I've got a company local here that does a lot of board level repair work, and there are some companies that I have that need specific parts that either we can't find or whatever, and so a lot of times I will have to refer them to that company to do that, and a lot of it's because they've got equipment that you simply just can't replace it with a new machine, because the software doesn't work or the equipment attached to the machine won't work unless it's that specific station. I'm talking about guys with large, print press machines. I've got an airport with sound listening devices on the runway, and those will only run on some computers that are 15 years old.
Okay. That's a valid point.
I don't do them, but luckily there's a company here that does. So.
And it's nice to have that local.
Yeah.
Al, what about you? Have you heard of, because we used to have there was, somebody who used to reball over there in the UK named Lotfi, and that was way back in the day, and I don't think he's even doing that anymore.
No, we don't just replace them. But I mean, the same with Marvin. We have a lot of old systems which we have to go back. We've got alpha systems. We've still got one of our clients does water treatment, and they got old systems which are running on 25, 30-year-old machines which you just can't get the parts for. But luckily we've got a couple of guys in there who know all about alphas, and they just sit there and get the oscilloscope out and start soldering away and taking out resistors and stuff. So yeah, it's interesting stuff.
Okay. Yeah, and so I guess there's times that you need to do that. For me, for laptop repairs, what I'm finding is if anything is 4 years old or less, I can usually get a board for about $50, and it's a used board. But if somebody really wants to replace their laptop and they're going to pay me to swap the motherboard out and all that kind of stuff, then it's about 50-50. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It's just whether they're stuck to that particular, they like the touch and feel of that laptop, how it works for them. They like carrying it around. And the reality is, a lot of people that say, and we've said this before, but a lot of people that say, I can just go replace a laptop and get another $300 laptop. Yes, you can go get a very crappy $300 laptop. You're exactly right. But and it all depends on what you're doing with it. A lot of these people are, if you're going to buy a $300 laptop, leave it sitting on a desk or somewhere. Kind of use it like a desktop. If you're going to buy a cheap $300 laptop and want to carry it around in a bag, it's going to break at some point. You're going to drop it, whatever, so that's the problem. And I've seen these, especially a lot of these really cheaper plastic ones, I've seen them fall, 4 feet and just shatter. Plastic parts going everywhere. So it all really depends on, the level that you want to deal with. But some people, and especially some people that are buying the $500, $600, $700, $800 laptops, and you can still even get those motherboards for, right around $50, $60, $70.
Yeah.
It's still inexpensive to do, and it's easier to do, quite honestly, than sitting there trying to do a board level repair, which, in my opinion, you guys would probably all agree would take forever anyways.
Assuming that you figure out exactly what the problem is the first time.
Yeah, well, when it comes to reflowing, we're kind of it's generally been a video issue, and back in the day during the DV, 2000, 4000, 6000 series, they basically, the United States of America said that we can't use lead in our solder anymore, which for everybody that knows anything about solder, If solder has no lead in it, it's not as malleable, which means it can't be, expand and contract and all that kind of stuff. And what it ends up doing is each of those balls of solder that put that video chip between that and the motherboard will end up having hairline fractures or hairline cracks. And what that is, it's like, just the same thing as the pins that you would put in some of the older style processors. Those pins actually go into a socket. Well, to put them on the board, they use a solder ball, which makes a connection. So if you have a crack in one pin, obviously it's not going to work correctly. And especially a lot of it was happening when these things were heating up. So yes, I go back to and say, listen, just replace the motherboard if they really want it, or move them to a new system and move all their stuff over.
Yep.
All right, another email we have. This is something from last week. This is somebody said, Timesheet, Time Tracker by Florian Rauscha, is a good time tracking app for Android. I use it every day for multiple projects. Haven't tried export yet, but standalone works for me. Thanks to the great podcast, Pearly the Shirt Guy. So this was to a question we had. What type of time tracker do you use to track your fixes, your things you're working on in your shop? And so this is one that you can use. It looks like it's an Android app. So I'm sure iOS has probably something similar, or something out there. So anybody else got anything on the time tracking? Anything they found in the last week since we talked about it? Nothing.
Nothing
Not
new.
paid per
Most of the
job,
tickets.
so it's not really an issue for us. It's about what you get done, not how fast or how long it took you.
Gotcha.
So you don't keep track of the time that your techs are spending on things, so you can figure out how much money you made on the job?
Not that well on anything on site or done for businesses, yes, but we don't look at it that way for computer repairs in the store.
Okay. Yeah, I like to track them even on the flat rate jobs like virus removals, mainly because I want to know how much time I'm paying a tech to do something compared to how much money I'm charging for it.
Well, and the other thing too, now when you say that though, Chris, when you're talking about time, it's basically if a ticket goes in, that time starts, they're not stopping and starting the time, and they're not working on it 100% when they're doing, let's say, a virus
No, you start and stop it. We want time on keyboard. So
Gotcha.
because
Okay.
I'm paying X number of dollars an hour for a technician to be here. So if I'm going to charge $60 for a job, I want to know how many hours am I paying that tech to actually actively work on this compared to how much I'm charging. Because if I need to make a change to my pricing, that's the only way I'm really going to know that.
Right. And that makes sense, and that's why I'm not an employee, because I'd rather stick a fork in my eye than press stop and start all the time.
Well, I'm really sorry, Jeff, that my process is making you want to.
No, but it makes sense for your business because you do have employees that you're tracking. It's just something I never wanted to do. I don't.
Well, that's why I have a business right now, because people don't want to deal with the stuff that I deal with. They send it to us.
And there's a time tracking software that's right inside a Repair Shopper that you can turn on and turn off. And I have Repair Shopper open all the time when I'm working on a machine, because that's how I communicate with my customer on a regular basis as I'm working on the machine. So.
Yeah, no, it's right in the ticket, so
Yep.
it's just super simple. The mobile app has it too.
Oh, very cool.
See,
Since we're
because
talking
we
about
flat rate everything in-house is flat rate, so that makes it a lot easier. I'm less worried about how much time it takes each individual. There's so much variation. If a computer's a nice i7, it's going to get fixed a lot faster running a virus removal than it is if it's an older Core 2 Duo. And so it's not as much about the time tracking, and it's one-to-many. One technician's working on 4 or 5 computers at a time at any given time.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, and we have the same thing. What I'm saying is that time tracked would be active time on that system, because there's going, at some point you're doing something on one computer, and then you'll start to scan, move on to the next one, do a bunch of stuff, start to scan, move on to the next one. So tracking the time where a scan is running and you're not physically doing anything with it, that doesn't make any sense. But what I'm saying is that, let's say, and I'm just tossing numbers out here, I'm not going to give out real numbers, but let's say it costs me $20 to do a virus removal, because the amount of time that is physically done on the keyboard is $20 worth of time, and I'm charging $25 for a virus removal. Well, that's a $5 profit. I'm not making any money off of that. And when it gets worse is if the average time for that task starts to go up, then you wind up with, okay, average $22, average $23. Well, I have to increase my price. So, it's something that gets more important, I think, as you scale up, so that you don't wind up, on average, losing money on a job, but you don't know that you're losing money on the job because everything else is balancing it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. All right. Let's. Marvin, you were going to say something.
Well, I was going to comment on keeping track of time, and speaking of employees, one of the things that I had trouble with when I had techs is not just keeping track of what they worked on and how long they worked on it, but because we did so much on-site work, it was keeping track of their time in general, how long it took them to get to the customer, how long it took them to get back from the customer.
Yeah.
And, I had my office administrator, literally, we would keep a list of the amount of time it took to travel from our office to each client. Part of it was to track them and their time and their mileage, but part of it was I had an internal clock in my head of how long I thought a tech should be on site working on something. And if I hadn't heard from them in a couple of hours and I thought it was a 15-minute job, it was that was a big thing that we had to keep track of. So
Yeah.
employees, yeah, they're fun, and if employee decides to stop off on the side of the road to take a nap because he's tired, I didn't want to pay him for that.
Sure. So when somebody came to work for you, Marvin, basically when they were asking what's the shot for, just don't worry about it. Just
That's right.
just a little tracker. Don't worry about it.
It's simple. You provide them with a company cell phone, and you install something like the Enable software on there, so that you get geotags wherever they are while they're working, and you just pull that up and say,
Yeah,
hey,
but back in the day we didn't do that. We just had a GPS tracker we threw in their car,
Nice. Nice.
like a Domino's sign on the top. You gotta have this.
Old school. There we go. No, it's good. Yeah, again, it's employees. All right. So let's go. Al, did you have anything? Obviously, you're working your company. Do they track your time?
Yeah, you're gonna love this Excel spreadsheets.
Oh,
I love you, Al.
oh.
I'm out.
Well, luckily I've got quite a nice boss. As long as mainly I get scheduled a task to do each day, so I'm working on bigger projects. So as long as I keep my hours of what I've done in that day, and if things start to slip, and I tell my boss things are starting to slip, and I warn the customer or I warn the account manager and say, hey, we've got this problem, we need to solve it. We might have to solve it in a couple more days. Then it's happy. It's just when you get texts, you don't kind of keep you informed, and then the project starts to slip, and then that's when issues start happening.
Right. Very cool. All right, let's move on to the last couple emails here.
I'll be back real quick.
All right. It says, this is from the last week's episode. It says, hi, Jeff. Enjoyed the show and all the contributions from everyone at Podnutz. Along with what others suggested, here's something that I'm using in Windows 7 to help minimize the constant Windows 10 pop-ups. Click on the pointer, show hidden icons in the system tray. Click Customize and find GWX. Get Windows 10 under the icons header. Under Behaviors, change the setting to Hide Icon and Notifications, and click OK. Don't know how long this will work, probably to the next update, but might keep some customers from inadvertently upgrading to Windows 10. Hope this helps. Thanks to everyone for sharing their knowledge. Chuck. Hey, Chuck, appreciate the email on that. And, yeah, it's a good pointer to point these things out. And hopefully, if you guys are going to do something like that, you can get this to work for your customers. My opinion is a lot of times Windows is doing so many, or Microsoft is doing so many updates and different things that eventually it's just going to turn back on. So I really don't worry about it. Yes, I still have it on my system where it pops up every time I restart my system, but it's not. I click off of it. It's not really that big a deal. So, but yeah, no, that's good to know, because I know a lot of people are concerned about that, and it is a pain. And there are a lot of retail customers that are upgrading to Windows 10, whether they know it or not. Okay, last email, and this kind of goes into the same thing. It says, hey guys, I just wanted to add my comments to your recent discussion about tracking time. If you're not accurately tracking your time to bill clients, then you're potentially leaving thousands of dollars on the table. Billing just 15 extra minutes on 2 jobs per day could earn you another $50, assuming a $100 an hour rate. $50 times 5 days a week times 50 weeks a year equals $12,500. This is just an example for an hourly instead of project or flat rate billing. I'm not talking about overcharging. I'm talking about accurately charging for the time spent on a customer job. If you're giving time away, then you're giving money out of your own pocket. Also, there is a great tool mentioned on the TechNibble forums called GWX Control Panel. This little tool lets you disable the Windows 10 upgrade nag, remove the nag permanently, and also actually prevent OS upgrades. See more about it here and see if it works well for you. We'll have that in the show notes. He says, I've already used it on several systems and am quite happy with it. Also, I was intrigued recently when Marvin mentioned he is married. Has he registered womaninthevan.net too? This is Rob Berger, and thanks, Rob, for the email. And yeah, great information on the billing per hour versus flat rate. I'll be honest with you, for me, flat rate pricing in shop is just easier for math in my head. And yeah, it's, I can do several systems at one time. So to track that stuff and to do an hourly rate, that's fine for some folks, and more power to you, just not for me. When I go on site, it's an hourly rate, and they pay travel fees to and from. So that's just the way I've finally done my business, and I'm happy with that way. But I know everybody does it a little bit differently. You guys got anything on that?
Internal flat rate is how we do all of everything we do for in-store is just flat rate fix. And then externally, we really try to bid projects. For example, like an apps migration, we give them a price and an estimate, and that way we're not worried about how many hours it takes, because so much of that we do remotely, other than we usually get it established, get into their servers and stuff. So we try as much as we can. And then on the infrastructure and cabling, kind of the same thing there. When we bid those jobs, are not hourly, and none of my employees that do like the cable installation, none of them are paid hourly. They're paid per run they get completed, per certified finished run.
Oh, okay.
So their incentive is to work fast, but they can't work so fast as though they do a crappy job, because if they do it wrong and the cable doesn't work,
right,
it's for nothing, and they have to rerun that cable again. But everything's paid on that flat rate, so when I'm paying the techs that way, the hours don't become real relevant. They hustle and work and get work done, and it's not by the hour that way.
And that's a great incentive way to do that too, I think. Yeah, because that's going to motivate somebody versus, like you said, if you're bidding a project out or whatever, and you're just doing it, I'm getting paid whether I'm standing here eating a sandwich or I'm actually running cable or whatever it is I'm doing.
It also keeps me from babysitting them, because no one's trying to milk the clock. They know exactly how much that job's going to pay. The client, like with these dealerships, they give us ranges of dates. They're like, oh, you have these dates to finish it from beginning a project. I give them the range. It has to be completed by then. They always complete it, sometimes in half the time the dealership was giving us on some of these big projects, because they just worked 13, 14-hour days until it was done.
Right. That's good. All right. Anyone else on the flat rate versus charging hourly? Chris, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Was I supposed to have the same opinion again?
Well, might want to see the little green button or the little green light up before you start talking. No, go ahead.
All right. Well, you know what? Fine. You want to do that? No, I don't like flat rate pricing unless it's fires, removals, or tune-ups. And I mean, there's a lot of different reasons for that, but that's just the way that we run it. It works really well here. But even I appreciate what you're saying with you only pay out X number of dollars to the technician whenever they do this job. But we have employees and I don't know how the labor laws work down there in the U.S. But here in Canada, I don't have the option to provide a flat rate payment for each job that these guys do. I have to pay them for the time that they're here. So yeah, I mean, time tracking for me is critical, because it tells me whether or not a specific line item on invoices are going out that's giving me a loss. So I can't do flat rate. I just can't do it.
Right. It's interesting. So it's the way the law works there. You can't just pay your technicians. You can't come up with a pay base like that. Is the way the pay structure works in Canada?
Okay, so here's how it works in Canada. For any of you who care about how the 12 of us do it up here.
There's a lot more than that, Chris. Come on now.
You're right. It's like 12. Um, so if you there are employees and there are contracted employees. Employees, you tell them what hours they have to work, when they where they have to work, and how they have to do their job. Contracted employees are contractors that work for you on a regular basis, where you provide them with a list of things that they have to do, and then they choose when and how to get that done. So if I want somebody to work between 9 and 5, they have to be an employee. Especially if I want them to work out of the office here so I can keep an eye on them. If I just wanted to post a bunch of jobs into a folder and tell them, hey, take a look at these jobs, see which ones you want, and let me know when they're done, then they could be contractors and I can pay them per job. But that is not a good way to run a business, so I don't do it.
Well, I don't know whether it's a good way or not a good way or whatever, but what I understand is there are a lot of technicians, there's a lot of companies that do hybrid approaches of some sort, and what they do is they make it work for their business, and that's okay because you're gonna learn the things that are gonna work for you and the things that are not. And I don't want to put everything into a cookie cutter and say everybody's got to do it this way. There's many ways to do the same thing. And depending on your area, depending on your clientele, depending on the type of work you do, it's always going to be different.
No,
and
fair enough.
I like that about this business because it is different, and everybody can do their own little nuances themselves.
Yeah, and it's not that we can't contract things out. Like, if there was a major server problem locally here and I didn't know how to fix it or didn't have the time to deal with it, I have couple guys that I can call and say, hey, listen, I got this client, they need some help, this is what's going on, would you be able to get to them today? But that's as far as I can legally take it, right? I can't say, and you got to be there by 4, because that's not how the labor laws work.
And the difference is, too, you're doing remote support, so obviously you're going to have somebody sitting behind a computer screen that's going to need to be paid on an hourly basis for what they're doing. Yeah, I get that.
With the exception of the local work, right? Because
right.
I do some on-site work. I actually had to pick up a server who RAID 5, 2 drives out of the 3 failed at the same time.
Should use RAID 6. Anyways.
They didn't have backup. But and that's the type of situation. And that was just that same friend of mine. He couldn't make it out. He was already on a job, and these guys were panicking, so he called me. Gotcha. It's the same deal. You know what? I can stop by there today, no problem. But he can't give me a schedule. He can't tell me when to get there or anything like that. Just call them and get there as soon as you can. And that's as far as we can legally take it. So I'm not saying that there aren't times when that can be used, but I'm saying that for our business model, if I were to set something like that, I run a very, very huge risk of being the only one here during a storm.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. No, I get that. Marvin, what about you?
I do a little bit of everything.
Because you're the man in the van, that's why.
Yeah, that's right. Well, let me first go back and talk about, Chris, we do have employees and contractors in the U.S. too, so just in case you were confused on that.
Okay, well, I'm sure that you do. I just don't know how the labor laws work in between what's an employee and what's a contractor.
Well, yeah, we can get into that later, but in terms of what you can pay the employee, I think that's where Tom was going, is even as employees, he can pay them on a per job basis so long as they are, it's different for each state, so I don't know how it is up there in Michigan, but in Florida you can have exempt employees that you don't have to pay a specific wage as long as that wage, in a sense, is more than minimum wage or more than what you would pay them on a salary if they have the ability to make more. So if they're able to make commissions or they're able to, waitresses and tips and all that stuff, you don't have to pay them by the hour if their potential, to make more is more than what the minimum wage is for that position. So in some sense, I got my model from the auto body industry, where they pay their employee techs by the job because they were able to crank out more hours that they could get billed for than they actually worked. So an employee that worked 8 hours might bill 12, and they get paid based on that 12 hours. So I think if that's how I understand Tom's scenario, that kind of is what we were doing for some of our jobs, where we would bill out a project based on the number of hours. And for most of our clients, yeah, we would probably, if we finished it in less hours, we would charge we would not charge them the full project rate. But for some projects, we did. So, if I estimated that it took me, 2 days to install a server and reconfigure a network, and it took me 14 hours instead of the 16 hours, I still billed for the 16 hours. So that's kind of how I did that. So for flat rate pricing, that's how I do it. It's called project pricing for me, not flat rate.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, very cool. No, yeah, there's a lot of different scenarios, and yeah, definitely find what works for you. There's definitely different ways to do it, and you'll definitely learn what will not work for you. Al, let me ask you a question. On the bottom of this email, and actually the last email too, are you guys, because obviously you're going into a lot of businesses and stuff, and I want to hear your take on this. Are a lot of people getting the Windows 10 pop-up, or because you're in a business environment and they have the volume licensing, they're not seeing that, like what we're seeing on the retail side?
I've only seen it if it's joined to the domain. I don't think you get the little pop-up box. Is that right, Marvin?
That's correct.
Okay, gotcha. So you're not having to deal with having to shut this thing off and mess with it. And has anybody else found a way, even on residential computers, that it turns it off 100% and doesn't ever come back on? Because I've seen many different fixes, and none that have worked forever.
Hey, Microsoft wants this thing everywhere.
And to be honest with you, from a residential side, it's a great operating system.
Yes.
I think the problem is, depending on how mucked up the computer is, the operating system, when you do an upgrade, could run like complete and utter garbage. But you can always, what I like about it is, and I've had no problem getting anything to verify and authenticate, and it's been beautiful because I can blow away a system, put Windows 10 back on there, and I don't have to call a 1-800 number to get the the OEM to go back in there and do the box number 1 4 5 7 8 9 box number 2 and sit there for 15 minutes trying to put in the new code. It's been great. And a new install, once you do the upgrade on a system and you go to do a new install on that system, it works perfectly so far every time that I've seen. Anyone else have anything different on that?
No, I agree with you. On the retail side, it just works really well. I like it for the retail clients. The updates seem to be really smooth on it. We've seen a lot less issues than we have with Windows 8 on here and returns, so it's good.
Gotcha. All right, hey Chris, what with your clients? Obviously, you're doing a lot of remote, and obviously you were doing a lot of turning people into Windows 10 users. So is that still going strong, or is it slowing down, or what's going on there?
It slowed down a little bit. I think the hype and the rush is done, but we'll wind up with a second rush closer to the expiry of the free upgrade.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm expecting a few of them here and there over the next few months, and then just a storm. That said, it's gone really straightforward. I mean, by the time we're done everything, the only thing the client has to do is that next insert name finish, or what I can't even remember right now what the rest of it is because I never see it. But we made a little script to read off to them and say, hey, this is what you're going to have to do at the end, and they've been fine with it, or at least I've never had any complaints. But yeah, expect a huge amount of them coming in just before it expires because people are going to realize that they're not quite in there and they don't want to have to pay for it.
Gotcha. All right. Very cool. Yeah, I think it'll be something that'll, people will probably try to get a hold of. And quite honestly, though there are still situations where even on the residential side, if somebody's using Windows 8.1 and it's working fine, especially on an OEM system like a Dell and HP, something like that, I'm kind of telling them, if everything's working, especially with all the different programs and stuff they use, let's just hold off for right now. And let's let them get all the bugs worked out so we make sure that this is going to be a smooth transition. Now, with that being said, every system I've moved over, I've had no problems with any software, and I use many different types of software. My kids play many different games, and I've had absolutely no issues moving from Windows 7 to Windows 10. They play all the same stuff that they normally play, and it works out well. So.
My wife, she plays some game. I don't play any games at all, but she plays some game called Fate, and apparently it doesn't work in Windows 10. So I played with it for a while. There's all these people in the forums that are angry, and she went from 7 to 10, and now she's like, I may have to go back to 7 because I really like this one game. And I'm like, it's Fate, and the company, I can't remember the name of the company that made the game now, but all the games they make, then they're not really publishing patches for it apparently.
Oh. Well,
Wow.
I mean, did she get it on Steam or did she get it through?
Yeah, it's on Steam, and there's no update for it.
Okay, and running it in compatibility mode for 7 isn't doing anything for it?
None of that works.
Really?
A lot of angry people in the forums on this game.
Yeah, I can imagine. I remember back in the day, and that's why I really started using things like Steam, because back in the day I remember, rewriting config files, to get games to work. So it was horrible. Especially when you're trying to use two
sorry,
cards.
I just found you a solution.
Uh-oh. Wow. All right.
I use a lot of Steam game. I will put the link in the chat. Somebody found a issue with it where the problem was that the game has to be started in window mode to work.
Yes.
Okay, and that didn't work?
No, and it works for some people, but not others.
Gotcha.
Apparently, because she has an ATI is the problem.
Yeah.
If she didn't have the ATI card in her laptop, that it does work when you just change the settings. I found that right in the forum, and I'm like, yes, a solution, so my wife will quit complaining. So that didn't solve it, though.
That is why I'm an NVIDIA snob. No, I'm just kidding.
We found another weird issue. We have a client here that brought a laptop in, and if we uninstall the updated driver it loads, the screen works perfectly fine. When it loads Windows 10, every time it wants to update, it shoves back in this updated driver that it automatically pulls down, and the screen goes dim, and the option to turn the brightness up goes away. They really want Windows 10 on this laptop, but we haven't found we Googled it. We cannot find a solution for this because we can uninstall the roll back the update, but then when the update comes back through, it just breaks again consistently. It makes the screen dim. That's the only problem. Everything works. It just the brightness gets turned to the lowest setting.
And you can't go in and you can't go in the settings in
nope.
Like the config
it's an ATI, of course.
Oh yes.
Go back. Let's just go with NVIDIA. That is the solution.
There you go. They have their own problems too. Hey, Al, have you had to use Windows 10 for anything, or have you been using it, or how do you like it? Obviously, you're not seeing it on the business side.
No, we've got a strict train control thing at work, so all our machines have to have Windows 8.1 on it, and then all my machines at home have got Linux on them, so I haven't really haven't played with it yet, so I can't really comment.
Wow, okay, that just broke my heart. Okay, anyways, just kidding. I love Linux. Don't send me any emails. I'm kidding. I run Ubuntu sometimes. Anyways. All right, I think we've nailed this show to death. We've had a great show, great panel of guests. Al, if people want to find out more about what you're up to and what you're doing with your great podcast, go ahead and give them that information now.
Yeah, if you go to the adminadminpodcast.co.uk, you can go on there, find out all my social links on there, and drop us a line if you want to know any more information.
Excellent. Yeah, definitely check that podcast out. And Tom, where can people find out more about what you're up to? Because you're up to something all the time, from frying laptops with 30,000 volts to, throwing laptops across the room. You do some pretty cool videos.
We got to start doing more of them. I want to get the high voltage thing out. It's Halloween. We're trying to figure out what we're going to zap with it, but do something fun. That's a great way to destroy something.
One of these times when you go to do something like that, let me know. I want to come down and
come down, join us and do a video, and you can laugh with us while we zap.
Yay!
So where can
You
people
can get me at lawrencesystems.com. We are a blog, and we're going to be posting a lot more details on how we do all of our ads, because we're actually doing tutorials to teach other people in any business really how to do the Facebook ads, Google ads. So we'll be publishing a lot of that, and hopefully, if I can get this off the ground and get it launched, I'll be open sourcing, like I said, my internal point of sale system and just giving that away for free. So. I got to decide what open source license I want to put under. It might be as simple as an MIT license. So as I like to keep things very open. So yeah, lawrencesystems.com is where you can find me, and Google my name. I'm not too hard of a guy to get a hold of.
Very cool. Yeah, you're all over the place. That's for sure. That's a good thing. All right, and Mr. Man in the Van, where can people find out more about you? Not on your website, obviously.
Well, you can use the website, and
which is.
Well, you can easily go to maninthevan.net, which will get you to mbsystems.net, which will get you to my Google page, my LinkedIn page, all that social media stuff that I'm doing, except for the Facebook, all of that stuff. I'm Uncle Marv at the Technibble forums.
Nice. Yeah, okay, that's cool. And Mr. Chris Carruthers, where can people find out more about what you're up to?
Well, for the next week, you're not going to be able to, because I'm going to be installing Fate and making it work on a Windows 10 system. So you can find out about our white label IT services by emailing us at info@rstechteam.com. You can go to our website, www.rstechteam.com, or you can give us a call, 866-568-2813.
Very cool. All right. Reminder, Jetpack Live is Monday, October 19th at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Learn real ways to grow your IT business. You can check it out over at itjetpack.com. Come join us live for the Computer Repair Podcast every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at podnutz.com/live. Just click on the picture of the show. Join in on the conversation by calling in live and hanging out in the chat room. We also have audio available over at podnutz.com, or subscribe using your favorite podcatcher. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Computer Repair Podcast. You can email questions and feedback to this show over at podnutz@podnutz.com. Or you can leave a voicemail, which we will play on the show, at 1-888-697-0162. You guys can support this show by going to patreon.com/Computer Repair Podcast. I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast. Great show. So I noticed there was some things in the chat where we had some people asking about the IT Jetpack audio version, and I wanted to let people know that the audio version has started going into an audio format via an RSS feed, and Corey Fruitman from Instant House Call is actually putting those up. I've edited them, and I'm giving them to him. And so I'm not sure what the scheduling is for when he's going to bring those down. I know he's put one episode up, so you can check that out over at itjetpack.com. There's the you can get it in iTunes or whatever. Everything's up and ready to go. So definitely check it out over there. And when they come down, they come down. And like I said, he is in control of that and doing that side of it. So, anyways, hopefully that answers your question on the IT Jetpack audio, which I know that most people, that's the way they catch, their podcasts, is through the audio version. Not everybody has time to sit down and listen and watch a bunch of people sit around and talk.
What was the date that you gave for the next Jetpack?
Oh, my bad. Yeah, November 2nd. I said October 19th. I forgot to change it in my notes.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Aren't they still? They were doing a special one on the 19th, weren't they?
Yeah, they did a special one.
Oh, that was already done.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Vaguely in the back of his head.
I might have to stop putting the date in there for some reason. Just say it's live some Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Go to IT Jetpack and check it out.
That's
right. It was a great show, by the way, if you guys didn't see the 19th.
It was a great show. It was very well There was no mudslinging. There was no punching people in the eye. It was very.
I was quite surprised that it wasn't rougher.
Yeah, well, you know, I was there refereeing, so it wasn't going to get out of hand anyways. And you know what? I think when it came down to the end of the show, what everybody finally realized, or not everybody, some of us already knew this, what I think some people realized is that there's different ways for doing business, and that's okay. You know, you don't have to do it our way. It's great. We don't have to do it your way. It's great.
If you're running an honest business and you're profitable, you're doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
That's as simple as that. If you're honest business, you're profitable, you're happy, you're doing it right.
Exactly.
And everybody can improve. I mean, you know, even me. Just saying.
And that's the reason for these shows, right? Because I can take a little nugget of information where I go, I didn't think of that. Let me see if I can make that work in my business, and that'll save me either time, money, or both. You know?
Well, remember that the original premise of the show is that we as independent techs were, you know, stealing business, ruining the market, yada, yada, yada. And I think that hopefully, I mean, I hope I did a good job in showing that, no, we're not ruining the market. In fact, we are, you know, basically filling in the gaps where not everybody can be. And
right.
that we're doing a lot of good work. And, you know, there shouldn't really be this fear of the indie tech.
Exactly.
We're talking about, you know, the pizza techs that are really hacks and, you know, trying to do $29 virus removal. I mean, that's, you know, that's affecting all of us, not just the larger companies.
Right. And you know, and the thing with that is though is what I've learned over time is that there are certain things that any business does this. You have not any business, a lot of businesses do this where they have lost leaders. So there's fine to have, you know, things where you're doing something inexpensively, but the point is if you're doing everything at the lowest rates possible, and you're getting all kinds of business, but you're really not able to keep up, and obviously, you know, you've got to be able to pay employees if you have employees in a shop or whatever, you know. So those things are important, but one person can do a lot of work. It's just whether they want to do that type of work. And what I think I've seen too is that other people are. I still love the technical end of it. So even when I kind of shy away from it and try to do other things, I kind of miss that. So you know, I'm not your typical entrepreneur. I still want to get my hands in there and get them dirty, even though I complain and cry about it all the time. But you know, I still enjoy part of it, if that makes sense. Nobody does that, right? Nobody complains about having to do another virus removal.
You know what? You know you've never heard me complain about that.
No, because that's your bread and butter. You love virus removal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let's roll back the tape from last week.
Hey, no, that's not fair. I don't complain about doing virus removals. What I generally wind up complaining about is how hard it is to educate customers because I don't want them to have to go through it.
It is true. I really don't want my customers to get infected, and so you know I've set up a system that you know I want to get to my customers to protect them, whether it be backup, you know, some sort of maintenance program, whatever. But not everybody looks at these things and they go, hey, it's money out of my pocket. Okay, that's great. You still pay for insurance for your car. You pay for insurance for your house. You pay for other liabilities in your life, whatever. But for whatever reason, a lot of people don't feel that their computers are that important until they lose the pictures of their firstborn.
Yeah.
And they go, you know, and you've got pictures from 10 years ago that all of a sudden are gone forever, and they don't realize. Usually people, I can't tell you how many times I've been in a phone call and people break down crying, and I'm like, I'm sorry, you know, I wish there was something we could actually do, but there's not, because you know, whoever set you up before or whatever had set you up for failure, or if you didn't heed the warnings. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Well,
yeah, it's unfortunate. I deal with that way too often.
It is, because it's very solvable, but nobody wants to put that little monthly fee out to be able to protect themselves.
Yeah, that's something we definitely have to work on as an industry in, informing customers how to, save them from themselves. And, to look at it from the contractor mentality where, we live in a DIY world now where, if you take it beyond computers and everybody wants to do their own, repairs on their houses, they want to do their own renovations, they want to, spruce up their cars and stuff, and the more that people think that they can do it, or more they can Google and people to say, yeah, protect yourself this way, don't worry about, a paid antivirus solution, that's what we have to fight against most of the time.
Yeah.
And, well, no, it can't possibly be infected because my cousin Steve came over and looked at it.
Right.
And he said that the problem was with the motherboard. Like, right, except the problem that you're getting right now is you're getting all of these, erectile dysfunction ads popping up over top of your email. You're telling me that's your motherboard? But whatever.
Could be.
Why not?
I don't know about your motherboard, but come on.
And that's the thing, though. There are a lot of things that I've done over the years. Because I am one of those do-it-yourselfers, and I've done everything from remodeling, and I'm not just talking for myself. I mean, I'm talking for business. I've done everything from remodeling to car repair to whatever. And quite honestly, a lot of that stuff I am just getting tired of doing. So, you know what? I'd rather make money in this business and then pay somebody else to do those other things. Now, there's still small projects and stuff that I'll do. But when it's a big undertaking, and I know it's going to take me, 10 months to get something done, it's easier to pay somebody to come in for a week and just get it done.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I got to run. But I will test out the XSplit stuff.
Okay. Hey, don't run, walk. Make sure you don't fall down.
Well, I'm going to drive. The car's
Don't
outside.
have scissors in your hand when you're doing that.
What about a swing light? Can I run with that?
Yeah, okay. As long as you don't put your finger in between.
There you go. All right, see you later, guys.
All right, see you,
All right,
man.
Christopher.
See you next week.
Later.
All right. Well, I think we're at the 5:30-ish mark, so I'm going to officially stop the broadcast. You guys can hang out if you want. All right, everyone, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you next Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great one.